to a lot of great marketing opportunities. She has invested in all different types of new equipment that's going to promote value-added product. Now, what is value-added product? So it's one thing to get a raw agriculture commodity, right? Like one apple. But then if you can slice that apple, you can often charge more money for it, right? That does, include some other different regulatory things, and we're navigating that with all of our projects, but we're really excited because our markets want value added. I mean, who goes to the grocery store and buys a whole butternut squash? Yeah, that's what I thought. I buy that. Oh, okay, so I have some takers up here. Y'all, good for y'all. Y'all are definitely saving some money by doing that. But I'm buying that butternut squash that's already cut up, so I can throw it in my soup or I can roast it in the oven. So we're really thinking that value-add product is going to be the next big thing for our Alabama produce industry. We're really excited about that. So yeah, if y'all have questions about any of the specific projects, I left my business cards in my office, unfortunately, but I do have some posters on the Ag and Industries table. It's got my cell phone number and my email address, so if you want to learn more about those other projects throughout the state, I'm happy to give you information about those.
From our cooperative standpoint, as well as some of the individual producers, and we don't want to just let's not get too lost in that wholesale of are we talking about a truckload like the Walmart project, or are we looking at an individual pallet? Because for some producers, we're going from a box or a bucket to a box to a pallet to 5 pallets to work to get to that being able to fill out that full reefer truck and trailer. But the requirements and some of the standards are still going to be the same no matter what that scale is. Having some good food safety practices, making sure that your products are going to be delivered in a timely fashion and manner, understanding some of the quality assurance that goes along with it. So all of these are things that as we're looking to work with producers to scale up to that truckload on their own, we're kind of, all right, let's start where we are. Let's make sure that we understand that if we're only having a box, we want that to be the best box that there is. We want that to be some of the freshest, some of the cleanest produce that we're putting out. And now let's talk about how do we scale that up? Does that look like increasing our washing container sizes? Do we go to a whole different washing system? I think a lot of that is what we're working through now, and what we're kind of figuring out is these are some of the steps that we're going to have to make, because if we're not only are we looking to kind of start this food corridor, but we also looking to sustain it for the next 5, 10, 20 years. So if we're starting this now, putting this infrastructure and things in place, how are we making sure that we're putting it in place to where, yes, we're going to be able to use it next growing season. Yes, we're going to be able to, it's going to make an impact, but how do we make sure that we're going to continue that impact? So a lot of that is kind of where we are now with understanding the wholesale market and growing into the wholesale market.
Yeah, well, in terms of scaling for me, I think it's easy to, scale, right? You can plant more, right? I think that's the easy part. But for me, it's more than that because of the level I want to grow at. So for me, I was struggling with infrastructure layout, even how I wanted to structure everything that I'm implementing on the farm. So that was one thing. Another thing was just planning, succession planning, giving myself the time. I mean, yeah, I can put seeds in the ground, but I want to build more infrastructure, so I can build in those gaps for, if there, you can't, predict Mother Nature, so you have to go with that. So if I feel like I have a better plan starting off, then that'll give me a better opportunity with my crops. So one thing that I noticed this year was that, okay, where I planted black-eyed peas and corn 3 different times because of the weather situation. And, a couple of farmers mentioned earlier that, that succession planning may work better if you just plant a smaller crop of it and then go to another one. I had very good success with watermelons from the first batch I planted in the spring. they did well, but I also planted another batch in the summer, and they did really well too. So I had late watermelons that did really good, and I just kicked myself for not planting more because it was just an experiment. So I was like, so I know now that I can have really good crops of watermelon if I plant more than once, succession planting. And just overall, on the scaling up side, it's just, okay, I want to make sure I got a good business plan because that's going to help with, funding and everything. Also help me to scale and plan for the next 5 years. Another thing was working on those certifications that's going to also get me into other markets. So for me, eventually the amount of cultivation I want to do is directly tied to the markets, the certifications, and the plans, which helps with funding and everything. So I think overall it's just a matter of me not being too anxious to be a farmer, putting seeds in the ground, but build a bigger infrastructure that includes everything, initially that I, plan out for the long term. So, yeah.
Andre.
The cooperative network itself. So you have places like the National Cooperative Grocers, right? They're specifically a cooperative grocery store link. They have a lot of food co-ops around the country. Of course, you have our market, our SoCo market, right? With ASAC and Federation of Southern Cooperatives. With that, we're able to supply watermelon. We supply soybean in the past, greens and things like that. Just recently, we've been supplying a lot of local Greene County and Sumter County direct consumers through greens and things like that, especially with the the turbulence with SNAP and all the other stuff. Our farmers have really been pushing that a lot. But within the cooperative network itself and opportunities for it, just the cooperative itself is an opportunity, right? So for instance, you have Greene and Sumter County Farmers Market, which is a marketing cooperative, and it uses a really cool technique, and I'm pretty sure you and Kelvin both know of this technique, where they tend to buy from their farmers, their members directly, and then they're able to give some type of purchase refund back. So they'll be able to buy that food and they'll sell that food to another contract or something like that. Or you have a Marengo County co-op, very similar in that way, where they're able to process through one of their members as well. So you're able to have those markets. So there are a lot of networks, especially locally, but on a national level, and regional level, definitely our programs want to highlight that. The SoCo program and National Cooperative Grocers will be another really good program for co-ops specifically.
So I see it in, we live in a post-COVID world. So in the pre-COVID world, it's easier to sell people on large-scale commodities or things like that. But you're dealing with a much more educated consumer in the post-COVID world. So people, spent an entire year in the house watching TikTok videos, YouTube videos, and everybody thinks that they're a whiz at farming themselves just because they've been watching YouTube videos. So they're going to ask you a bunch of different questions and things like that about what you're growing. Are you organic? Do you have this certification, that certification? So the consumer you're dealing with is much, much more educated than they've probably ever been, So you as a small scale farmer have to meet that education level. Can you tell somebody something that they don't know? If they're telling you something that you don't know, can you humble yourself enough to be like, oh, I didn't know about that, but I can implement that? It's those types of things that you're going to need to deal with in terms of your consumer base and network going forward.
So we're going to move into topic 2, simple business and marketing plan without needing expensive software.
So Marie, that's a great question. And I'm going to back up just a second. I completely forgot the second half of what I was supposed to say. So it's all good that we have 6 RFSI projects around the state, but they are not working for individual farms. Like here in the Black Belt, it is a region-wide effort. And for any of these projects to be successful, they're going to have product throughout the season. It's not just going to be, we don't want the cooler to only be full for 2 weeks out of the year. We want to have consistent product that we're reliably sending to market so that y'all can be getting paid throughout the year consistently. That's good stuff, good stuff. So in order to do that, in order to be thinking about, how are we gonna make this happen? And Andre, certainly working with co-ops, you can speak to this way more than I can. You've got to be collecting data on your farm. And I know that's like not a super sexy thing to say and use data and everybody's eyes glaze over, but we need to know things like volume, because it's hard to plan for a market when that grocery store owner comes to you and says, hey, can you get me 6 bushels of squash every 2 weeks? And you're like, I don't know how much squash I grow. So it's really important to be keeping track of how much you're yielding in your field, how much you're having to cull or throw away, and how much is actually marketable. And that is, there's some really low, all you need is a scale and a box to start weighing produce, or count how many boxes and keep a paper and pen ledger. There's lots of things that you can do that are very low technology, low investment. But I will say, does anybody participate in the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program? Okay, all right. And so we swapped to those cute little cards, right? So we don't do paper vouchers anymore, we do the cards. So if you have been on the fence about switching to some type of payment system where you can accept plastic, AKA credit and debit cards, I really encourage you to start maybe considering looking at that type of technology as well for your direct consumer, your farmers markets, your farm stands. It's really low tech input. And if you can run the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program card, you can run a Square. I promise it's easier than Solely Market. Sometimes they make that a little bit too complicated. But anyways, there's people that are in this world that want to help you. So if you've got grandkids, if you've got little ones in your family, if you've got kids that are interested in 4-H and FFA in your communities, we've got to be getting these kids involved with agriculture. So bring them alongside you. And if you need help with that technology piece, don't be afraid to reach out, because those kids, they really do care a lot about farms and what we're growing and what we're eating. They just don't know how to be involved. So if you want to expand your technology package a little bit, don't hesitate to reach out to our youth.
I'm almost taking a sense of a pattern in this. What Meredith said. No, but I mean, kind of exactly along the lines of what Meredith kind of hit on was understanding that volume, understand of knowing what's going to be when your crops are coming off, to what volume, and to what's the time frame from harvest to delivery. It's understanding that if they need, like you say, 60 bushels or 6 bushels or whatever every week, is that every Thursday? Okay, that means I need to harvest on Tuesday or early Wednesday, process, pack to make sure it's prepared to get there by Thursday. Like I say, the biggest thing is if larger buyers are gonna kind of assist us in this scaling up process, they're just there to market it. They want to help us. They would like to help us, but at the end of the day, they have to make sure they're helping themselves. Their job, their business is selling product. Buying it from us is only a caveat to them saying that, okay, I bought local product, and that's to market it for more. That's the nature of the game. But at the end of the day, everybody wins in that. So it's being able to understand of what you're gonna produce, and like Kelvin mentioned, even before you plant it, knowing that if you need 60 bushels a week, you plant for 80. You always kind of want to go a little bit over, and then that's where that farmers market excess, where the excess goes to farmers market, where with your farm to school, you can do some more cooperative marketing opportunities with that. It gives you a little bit more flexibility, but it does allow you to make sure that you can maintain that buyer or that wholesale market and be able to build your, my rule of thumb has kind of always been, if you can sustain your business, because we although we are farming, we're businesses first. The business is farming. So if we take that approach to it, and it's understanding that, hey, my business structure or my business plan states that I need to be able to make this off of, $15 off a bushel of squash. That's real low, but you know what? Our business plan says that we can do that. So even in my wholesale market, I need to make sure that I maintain $15 and I sell 100 bushels, and that's my break-even point. But if I can produce more, if I'm producing more, everything after that is to the profit. So it's being able to kind of understand and setting that baseline of, all right, what do I need to do what do I need to maintain, or what kind of I need to set my price point at for this wholesale market to be able to supplement and allow my farmers market funds to supplement my income.
Others early in their planning process.
So when we talk about like that post-COVID wave of humanity in which we're all more educated consumers, the human part of what you're projecting to people has to be there. You know, we can deal with coldness from IBM or Apple or the inhumanity of a Microsoft or whatever because they're selling you technology. You don't eat technology. But food, you consume that, and you want to consume quality food. So if I'm feeling as a consumer that you as a small farmer, you don't care about what you're putting into your food, you don't care about what you're feeding your animals, you don't care about what you're spraying on your animals, or I'm sorry, what you're spraying on your crops, you know, I'm not gonna wanna buy from you. But if I think that you care, if I think that you're putting that extra bit of time in the field to make sure that you're producing a quality product for me, that's gonna matter. That's gonna make me spend that extra amount of dollars at the grocery store, at the farmer's market, or come out of my way to your farm to get what I need. So having that human part in your branding, having that human part in your marketing, it's so all the way down to whatever you're selling your product in. You know, for me, I'm a quail farmer, so the containers that we use, they try to get recycled materials. And I put that on my branding. These are recycled materials. That goes a step further. People care about these things. So trying to make sure that you're caring about humanity, the environment, just care, you know, that's not necessarily present in big scale industries across the board. But when we're talking about small scale farmers, which somebody may mention, like what is a small farm? If I'm correct, the USDA says it's a dollar amount. So if you make less than $350,000 on your farm, you're considered a small scale farmer. So any of us in this room that are not doing more than $350,000 are small scale farmers. And your branding and messaging to your consumers should reflect that in your humanity more than anything.
We're going to pass to Kelvin. We're using to be able to communicate that out. Well, first know it for yourself. Obviously measure changes and be able to manage your business by the numbers. What are those measures that you're going to be using? Or are you?
Just call Andre. Spreadsheet. No, but initially, that was a point that it wasn't a struggle, but it was something that I really had to spend some time on, you know, and it really started with talking to Andre in the first last year when we went into the, you know, market for the food banks and things like that, just kind of measuring out everything. It was a good process, and it took me way longer than I expected. And I thank him because he stayed on me to get it back to him, and working with you as well, Marie, because you're good at spreadsheets. But I think it's some great tools out there that I've kind of been working over this planning session to kind of make my own. Part of it is using AI, because you can put so much information in there and it'll spit out a spreadsheet for you. So looking at what I work on, I'm gonna kind of migrate from, you know, like a Johnny Seeds or something like that. You can get something generic and then put your own twist to it, you know, but you gotta do it though, you know, because it'll just make everything else better, you know. So the first year I didn't do it, I was just planting, you know, I want to plant this, but right now, I'm working on that for next year, and amongst all the other stuff I'm trying to do too. But just getting that plan together and putting it down on paper, it flows everything else. You know, it definitely flows everything else. So I'm migrating to something in Chat GPT now, just to put in my volume and measurements for my rows and how many acres I'm going to plant, and then spit it out that way, and then I can always tweak it in a spreadsheet after that. So there's some great tools out there. So I would say if you're into technology, or even if you're not, try to utilize some of those resources that are free. You know, you may have to pay for another version of chat, but for me, it's a makes a world of difference. You don't have to reinvent something that's already been created, and it'll create it for you. You know, so just kind of using the tools that are available, and which is, you know, Andre. Thank you.
And cooperative planning strategies help farmers meet volume and timing requirements
Oh, literally the spreadsheets. I'm so serious. No, so something that we've done is, and I worked with Darren and the rest of the team to create something very much similar to the Johnny Appleseed calculator, where we went through, we actually figured out the equation of how to create yield. Like we know if you do a 300-foot row, there's so many inches in between ones. You put 16 inches, you put 16, blah, blah, blah. Then you get 2 pounds from each green or whatever, so yield, so you can get an estimate of what you can do, right? In addition to that, though, something that we were able to do was look at your actual aggregate sites, right? So depending on the way that your co-op was set up, so let's say you were a production co-op versus a marketing co-op, right? So those were two different models. In the production co-op model, what we did was we said, all right, you have this aggregate site of 5 acres, this aggregate site of 5 acres, this aggregate site of 5 acres, and this aggregate site is going to grow this. During this time, it was a succession planting system of these small acreages that went out, and they were able to supply consistently to the food banks and wherever else, right? In addition to that, you had your marketing style cooperatives, which Kelvin and Marie fall under because they were slightly larger farmers and in the context of our farms, right? In the context of our farms. So they're able to do 20, 50, 30 acres at any time, and they can do monocrop, diverse crop, or whatever they want. And then their co-ops are able to purchase from them and then get them a type of patronage refund. And in contrast to the production cooperatives, where they were able to aggregate together, but then they all decided to get the same amount in terms of their patronage refund, right? So it was depending on, so one model uses depending on how much the farmer sells, then the other model is saying, hey, we don't care how much you put in this labor, and this is what we all get, right? So those are the 2 models that we use in terms of being able to supply markets. You mind asking that second part of your question again, just to make sure?
I think you covered it.
All right, I'm good? All right, thank you.
It's crazy because, I was in the military. I worked for the government after I retired from the military, and I did a lot of planning, right? Operations, cyber, I was in cyber, so I did a lot of operational planning. And I left that world because I didn't want to do it anymore. And I'm finding that being a farmer is absolutely all about planning. Absolutely. And talking to some of the grassroots farmers we have, they do it differently. But for me, a spreadsheet, I can read a spreadsheet. So it makes sense for me to kind of use the technology and implement, the tools to make my life a little bit easier.
Now, so
you're sitting in one.
exactly. So we are sitting in our central location, and just for this facility, from this project, we had some floor renovations behind us. The red floor that you see, that's kind of to help with some of the cleanup after processing, as well as the freezer that has been installed here. And then we have the Deep South Food Alliance facility in Marengo County that was expanded. We have a new facility in Bullock County for East Alabama. And then throughout the entire Black Belt, I know Alicia kind of started us off this morning with that slide from ASAC, all of the triangles and the stars and those are some of the post-harvest cooling infrastructure that'll be in place by the beginning of next season, so that, and kind of like Meredith mentioned, those aren't just for individual farms. Those are kind of for farm communities. A lot of the ones that we've partnered with are going towards cooperatives for that very reason. Like I said, we want to make sure that we're able to keep those coolers and keep that stuff filled so that it's being utilized. And correct me if I'm wrong, Meredith, but these funds were to kind of incentivize and push the farm business structures across the Black Belt. So we want to make sure that we're continuing to do that, and we can only do that by make sure that all of our farmers around have access to them, or at least are knowledgeable of where they are. So just off the top of my head, because I did help Alicia create that slide, Russell, Bullock, Montgomery, Dallas, Sumter, Greene, Hale. We'll go with those for right now. That's on the top of my head. But like I say, it's about 8 or 10 counties in there that we're hitting on those projects, and that's, to my thought, And because we're going to utilize them so well and it's going to make such an impact that Meredith is going to go ahead and find us some more funds to hit the rest of the counties in the Black Belt. So,
Working on it.
So one of the biggest things we're doing right now is we actually just hired a new gentleman at the Federation. His name is Chris. He comes from Atlanta television and everything like that. We are putting together a large scale apparatus on our YouTube, on our social media platforms, and on our websites that are just telling the stories of the farmers we work with in the Black Belt region. I know on our personal ASAC YouTube, we have at least 2 documentaries coming about the different co-ops that we work with. So those are some of the big ways that we're telling our stories. Obviously, our social media apparatus as well in terms of photographs and things like that. But we're trying to get more on the ground within our storytelling. Everything doesn't have to be digital. We're trying to do a lot more orated storytelling. So in moments like these, when we can like sit at the feet of our elders. I mean, none of us are elders up here, but well, yeah, my mistake. I'm sorry. You can't blame. My apologies. My apologies. Youthful in spirit, of course. You know what I'm saying. But yeah, just working to get more of those types of things up and running so we can, let people know what is available for them and also tell the success stories, like you said, in a way that is digestible and quick and understandable for people.
Also want to add towards the end, we do have a video that was put together by University of Alabama Climatology Department, and they did a documentary about the farmers in the Black Belt, and I hope you'll hang around to see that. It was to be used in multiple areas, obviously getting to Washington, Capitol Hill, talking to students at universities, really trying to mobilize our area and bring awareness to farming, and not only just us farmers, but even bringing in these academic institutions onto our farms so that we can work collectively and collaboratively to help build the Black Belt corridor. So just wanted to bring that.
and please stay tuned and stay connected with everybody up here because the stories are being written as they are, as we hear today. So staying connected is, as we're writing this story, or as we're figuring out, like Andrew kind of mentioned to get us started, is, are we sure that this is going to work? We feel like it is. We feel like we're putting the resources in place. Now let's figure out how does it work? And one way or the other, we're going to make it work. It just may not be exactly how we planned it initially. We just have to make some adjustments and all. But all of that is going to be a part of the story. So come share in the story with us.
Thank you. Any other questions? We'll move to our next section. Before we move to our next session, I want to introduce Mr. Harris. I'm going to let you introduce yourself because no, I absolutely insist because you are a giant and we're happy to have you here. I know you probably had a little bit of travel issues getting here, but anytime you get here, it's the right time. So, sir.
Thank you, and good afternoon. I'm generally saying morning to everybody, but this is not that. So I am the CEO of Carver Jones Market. We are, it's a dream of mine. I grew up on a farm. That was the way I got started in Louisiana. I opened my first store when I was 20 years old in the South. And so this is what I love to talk about. We're at the end. I'm at the end of the food chain, so to speak, in terms of distribution. You may have not heard of us, but we're just getting started. Last year, we launched our first store we really target food deserts. And so we're very unique in that sense. We're also unique because we're the 27th Black-owned grocer in the nation. So that tells you a little bit about the landscape. I've been in the food industry, grocery side of it for more than 30 years. And so we're creating some new things. We're about to open, we moved from Fairfield this August and moving to a new location in Birmingham, which is what we wanted to do anyway. That was our first launch. The first store was what we would call a prototype because food deserts, there's about 3,500 across the South and Southeast, and they're mainly in African American communities. And so we wanted to create a system that would not only be an outlet for your products, but also a place we have a model to help young Black men and women own and operate grocery stores. And so that's part of what we're doing. So we've got currently 12 different cities that has approached us about wanting to do this. But the name Carver Jones is Carver, George Washington Carver. You're probably one of the few groups that may know this name, and that's Frederick McKinney Jones. Anybody know who he is? Okay, are you standing up because you do? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you out. He invented the first refrigerated truck, portable refrigeration. That company is called Thermo King today. You know Thermo King, don't you? Okay, he's the inventor of Thermo King. And the reason we chose these two names is because we want our young people, which makes up 50% of our workforce, to understand that there's greatness in them. And if you took these two men out of our American culture, America wouldn't be America as we know it today. So just as people, this is not a Black thing or any racial thing, but just a truth. We have contributed much to solving the problems of our nation. That has not stopped. We need to move forward with what we've already done to do more to solve this problem in communities. And so that's what we champion.
About for our farm.
All right, that is an excellent question. So I'm going to say number one thing that buyers care about is consistency and reliability. So I'm doubling down, I'm stealing what Darren and Andre said, and we want, when anybody purchases anything, you want to know that you're getting what you paid for, right? And so our buyers are exactly the same way, whether that be a child nutrition director, a wholesaler, produce distributor. So we've got to have consistent, reliable product, high quality product. And then I'd say that the markets, and y'all, I haven't been doing this for long, okay? I worked for the state for 3 years, so I'm the kindergartner up here. But I'll say that the markets that I work with also value behind consistency and reliability is stewardship. And Amir, you did such a great job pulling this together and that human aspect. And there's so many things that we're stewards of, right? We're stewards of our farms, our land. We're stewards of people. We're stewards of the next generation. So I think if you can focus on those two things as you're developing your farm story, because every farm is so different. There's so many unique things, but all farms can be consistent and reliable as much as the good Lord lets us with the weather. And then we're all stewards of something.
Darren, from your work developing wholesale pathways.
I think kind of like what Amir hit on as well is the shift in demand has been the consumer knowledge. So they know what they're looking for in a product, or at least what they think they're looking for when we start talking about some of the certifications and things. But they want to know. You know, everybody wants to understand, well, what did you do and what did you do? How did you grow this product? What pesticides or herbicides may have been used? Did you have a regenerative plan? Is it sustainably grown? All of these other different kind of terms to help market that product are going to kind of help you at any level, farmers market, wholesale, cooperative market and whatnot. So it's understanding what's your operational objectives and how does that fit your farm operation? Because you can't tell that story if you're not doing it. So as you're doing some of that planning out for your crops, go ahead and factor all of that in. I'm going to factor in, okay, once I harvest all these watermelons, I'm planting cover crops behind them. Maybe even kind of once I harvest my broccoli heads, I may cut the stalks, and to be regenerative, I'm plowing them back in. It's a couple different methods that you can use, but it's just understanding what your method is for your operation so that when you do market your product, it's easy to tell the story. It's easy to tell what you're doing, so understanding that concept of it and feel good about it. Feel that people aspect of it. Feel good about it because I don't know, as a buyer, you can kind of tell when you don't, So I think just kind of having that aura, having that presence with your product is that much more.
We're gonna pass it to Mr. Harris, small farm suppliers for 2026.
Yeah, I don't know that it's changed drastically from one year to another. I mean, when you get down to the bottom line, you want good quality product, consistent product. As a farmer, I would think you would want to have an idea when you put that seed in the ground where that crop is going. So for me, I'm very passionate about this, and yet at the same time, I understand you need the volume to be able to generate the kind of revenue you need to sustain yourself. And so I don't know that it's changed. I would think that if anything, the consumer is much more educated about what they're putting in their carts and taking home. So selling them on your story and the less miles you have on your product to get it to the consumer is something that it's an advantage you really need to take advantage of, okay? And so because your competition, if it's coming from the West Coast, it's 3 to 5 days before it hit a house. And then there's the house slotting and all those things that has to take place. The quicker, the shortest distance between the grower and the consumer, the fresher that product should be. And we have to capitalize on that. And I know from our standpoint, I just stood before the City Council of Birmingham last Tuesday as they gave their final endorsement 100% on the stores. They want 3. And so we're starting with this one. And the mayor is excited about it because he's tried for 2 terms to get grocery stores in a city like Birmingham, which 69% of it is in food deserts. So you could play a very, very big part in promoting that. In fact, that came up over and over and over in different meetings and committee meetings and all the things we have to go through was that one thing. And so I'm very excited about what you guys can provide. But again, consistency and delivering it to the consumer.
You know how long it took us to find you? We were like running around, bro. Like, thank you.
Want to enter the regional market.
All right. So the strongest openings, I kind of said it earlier with our available markets. However, may I kind of restructure questions a little bit? What is the best way that a newer beginning farmer can really get into a co-op in ways that they can start participate in the market? I think would be a better idea. Definitely joining some of the more experienced co-op, like Green and Sumter County, of course. Farmers Market, East Alabama would be a good example. Forkland would be a great example, right? But because co-ops tend to have those regional or local constraints, that tends to be a little bit harder. So something that you might want to do also is come to an ASAC workshop, shameless plug. We have a lot of those where we actually teach you how to produce and things like that. In addition to that, you can definitely schedule time with our outreach or myself, and we can teach you production of how things go. We can teach you the business part, or one of our guys or girls, women more so, can get out there and teach you how to raise chickens, bees, quails, or anything. So in reality, just the Federation itself is your network in order to learn to be a farmer. If you really want to do this, there are people who will get out there and get in boots, even if they have jackets on. They'll get out there with you and do what you need to do. So please, I like jackets. Everybody should like jackets. Yeah. but even still, we really, I'm really pushing this. I'm really serious. We have great programs that will teach you how to farm. Darren's having a program on his farm on the 16th, I believe, of December. What are you doing? Fencing?
So it is. So we are having a workshop with the conservation districts or the Bullock County Conservation District around wild hog exclusion fencing, which is a form of food safety. We talk about food safety, and we got to be able to keep out wildlife and things of that nature. And the Alabama Association of Conservation Districts right now has a great program around financial resources for wild hog exclusion fencing. So this will be a live demonstration of what that fencing looked like and kind of some of the importance of how it plays into the overall production of food safety and production of food.
And if you're looking for more information on that, you can find us on Facebook. Facebook and Instagram. All right. Alabama State Association of Cooperatives. We are there.
What is the simplest and most effective way for small farms to start building?
Lady in here who spoke about, was it Sweet Grow Alabama? That's a great partnership. Partner with ASAC. Partner with people in your community. In every county, there's some type of community organization that is doing this work. You got the food banks in your community. Partner with these people. When people come to your farmers market and everything, they may not know you directly, but if you partner with someone like an ASAC that is doing a workshop, if you partner with a Sweet Grow Alabama, that name brand is something that people trust. If any of you shop at Costco, you might see the same product at Walmart, but when you see that Kirkland on it, Kirkland's signature, you trust it. It's the same situation. So get your partnerships, get in your community, get with people who do work in your community and partner with them. Because that's the best way to grow your brand. People trust whom they trust and they don't trust who they don't trust.
No, just one quick thing on that is, I think one thing that we've talked about a lot today is the access to food and the shortage of it. So if there's a shortage of it, there's no reason for any of us to be competing with each other. When we talk about cooperative marketing, it's my neighbor, and my neighbor's neighbor all pooling our products together to be able to sell. So there's a shortage of products out there. There's no reason for us to try to go under. Hey, if you want to sell yours for $1 cheaper, that's fine. Go that route. There's still going to be buyers out there that are looking for this $2 product, and you selling yours for $1. You're not helping yourself, and you're definitely not hurting me. So just being able to kind of understand there's no competition.
And I think that's a great segue to the question I have for you, Calvin. If you don't mind.
I don't think I have to distinguish myself really, because I think we're all working on the same good, right? So I'll sell it with the co-op. That's fine. Or yeah, you can do both. But for me, I think it's especially in my community, we need unity in the production of produce, because I don't want to drive 30 minutes to get watermelon or something to eat that's fresh. I feel like we have to come together on that, and that's what we've been working on. This year was a trial and error on building a bigger brand for the co-op, and I'm okay with my farm being a part of that co-op and not branching out on my own. But I just have to do that too, because at the end of the day, I'm a producer and I want to produce, quality food. So I got to do that side too. But as far as the co-op and what that means to my community is super important, that we come together and we build a co-op brand that's, the co-op has been around. I don't even know how long has the Greening Sunday County Co-op, probably 30 years, right? So that legacy is important, and that my brand feeds into that legacy as well. So separation on certain aspects, because I still have to be strategic about my business and my certifications and everything, and then just funneling that into what we're building from the co-op side.
We're going to skip to the topic of the farmers plug into if they strengthen their market readiness this year.
So we, as part of RFSI, we also got funds for supply chain coordination. And this is connecting growers and producers to new market outlets. So in the state of Alabama, we envision that by bringing people together for a meeting once. I mean, we love to meet, right? We love to be together. I think COVID, if it taught us anything, we love to be together. So we did our first one last year, and it was great. We had a lot of learning sessions. There was a little bit of networking, but not much. And when I was reading through the evaluations, everybody was like, this was a really good time. Lunch was great. I want to talk to buyers. And I was like, heard. So this year in this room, well, no, next year. So on January 30th of 2026, and if y'all would like to attend, I'm happy to shoot you the registration. We're having an Alabama Supply Chain Symposium. So if you are a farmer or food processor, we would love to have you here, and you're going to have a table, and we want you to feature your products. Now, it's the end of January, so you may not have anything other than greens in the ground, and that's fine. But if you want to bring pictures, or if you want to, if you have a little video that you could set up, or if you just want to chat with the buyers that are coming by, you will have that space to do that. And the event is really centered around that networking piece. We're also, Mr. Harris, I'm going to go ahead and invite you, and I'll get you my information. We're inviting our local independent grocers. We're inviting our child nutrition directors. We're inviting our produce distributors, because all of these folks want more local product, but sometimes they just don't have the time to build those farmer relationships. So we're setting aside this day for y'all to have the opportunity to do that. So that's the Supply Chain Symposium on January 30th of next year. That was one. And then my second thing is, if you are at the point where you are considering a food safety audit, like GAP, Good Agricultural Practices. They also have Harmonized GAP, Primus, Global GAP. There's lots of different food safety audits that your buyer can dictate. But we just got a specialty crop block grant to provide 75% reimbursement up to $800 for those programs. So let's say you did your first GAP audit this year, you passed with flying colors, woohoo. So you can email me a copy of your audit, a little one-page application that I'm going to ask you to fill out, and the check, a canceled check that you used to pay, and we have money to reimburse you for that. Now, this is very similar to an FSA program, so you can't double up and get more than the value of the audit, but if FSA gives you 75% and you still have 25%, we can cover that for you. That means that you can get that food safety certification paid for, and that is your golden ticket to some of your markets. So if you have questions about that, that is actually the flyer that I have sitting on that table that also has all of my contact information. So please don't hesitate to give us a call about that program, because I would like to spend the money down sooner rather than later and get y'all into more markets as quick as possible. So yes, that's what's going on at ADAI.
Dear, since
What?
It's always coming from you.
what traits define a true market-ready farm, or from a wholesale perspective?
I would say the main trait is kind of what Kelvin hit earlier, is understanding that that farm is a business. You know, making sure that as we're doing some of the planning, as we're doing some of the thought, like right now, if you're not already planning for what your spring season is going to look like, how does that affect your business? You know, because planting season for a certain crops is going to start late, mid-January, February on some. And if we're looking at trying to get into some of these school markets, some of the local grocers and things, you want to be in there early and be consistent. So understanding that as you're developing your business plan, not only is it for production standpoints, but it's financial, because you got to be able to. There are going to be costs that go along with those seeds, that fertilizer, that water bill, that electricity bill, all of these different things that we're going to need to kind of labor, and then your labor. That's the one we always forget, is our personal time that goes into it. So it's being able to account for all of that, so that as we are looking at marketing to some of these schools and other places, is how are we determining what's our bottom line of what we need? What's the value of this product? You know, it's one thing to say that, oh yeah, I'm producing a sustainably grown product or organically grown product, But what is the true dollar value for growing that crop and then adding that additional organic, cost to it? So understanding that planning process and embracing the planning process. I'm like Kelvin. It was not something that I got into farming thinking, oh yeah, I need to make sure I write everything down. I need to make sure I account for everything. I don't think that's why anybody get into this farm business, and get into the farm of it. But once you start looking at it as a farm business, you know that's mandatory. Because please tell me what other business industry that you don't do that. Agriculture is no different. It's actually probably a little harder because it's so many different variables in it that you don't control or account for that can throw that whole plan out the window, and now you having to start over. So it's just being able to have that plan and being flexible enough to adjust in that plan.
We'll go to Amir.
We talk about like storytelling. Storytelling itself at its like most basic form is just like reiterating something that has happened or telling people what can be done. When you watch like The Lion King when you're a kid, you know what I'm saying, you enjoy all the songs, but it's really telling you a story about like perseverance, you know what I'm saying? And in the Black Belt, more than anything, we have a story of perseverance from civil rights to right now. So when you get all these farmers together or get in rooms like this and tell about all the perseverance that has happened, what is happening currently to elevate the situation, you get something that can become inspiring. And I think not only for the people in the Black Belt, but those who want to buy from the Black Belt, for all those northern counties, they can look down at this area and be like, okay, this is somewhere we can go to get quality produce. These are people who are doing quality work. So, when it comes to everybody who has a farm here or everybody who's doing work in the Black Belt, document yourself. Document yourself. If it's just as simple as a photo on your iPhone, it doesn't have to be professionally done. Document yourself. Let you be in charge of your own story. So much in our lives, not only is just Black farmers or Black people, everybody here has their story dictated to them in some way. That's just part of the American process. If you're aware of it or not, you're getting your story dictated to you. It is what it is. Be the person that is dictating your own story, and take pride in that and take effort into that work so that you can tell your own story.
We're going to go to Mr. Harris.
Is finding ways to separate yourself from the masses. In other words, if the perimeter is that place. I had the privilege of working for one of the most innovative and competitive area or retailers in Kansas City. I did that for more than 20 years in that market. It's highly competitive. Our owner had a motto of not wanting to be another Me Too. And so our slogan was a farmer's market 7 days a week. And that meant the growers could come in there with their crops, talk directly to the consumer because they had a story to tell about their product. And so those are one of the things that I really hope to do. In fact, the biggest things that we're facing in a food desert is people not understanding what a food desert is. And so with that, they come with the mindset, okay, they need a grocery store. Well, yeah, that's true, but that's only part of the issue. And so we just finished a book, it just came out yesterday, and it's called the Carver-Jones model. And so it really gets down into the details of what it really takes to do a food desert store and why it needs to be so important that all the stakeholders around the table understand the difficulty of what you're going after. If it was easy, somebody would have done it by now, right? You wouldn't have that problem. So, but if you can do something like this, it could change the world. That's what we're talking about. It's not just a community, it's not just a city, it's bigger than that. And You know, people look at me like I'm crazy because I won't give up. I just won't quit. Now, we closed the store in August and we opened another one in the first of the year. Who does that? Yeah, I mean, so they've created a documentary, you've seen it, on my life in the grocery store. Because it's not just about food, it's about people. And if you make people the focus, then you'll find the best way to serve people. Does that make sense?
Wow. So with that, we're gonna go to the last question. And Mr. Harris, you've already answered it, so I'm gonna go to you, Jay.
Oh, all right.
Because it really, I mean, it was to sum it up, and I think that was sort of sums up what we need to be looking to. And the question is, if farmers took one step in the next 90 days to become more market ready, what should that step be?
The farmer. I know. All right. So really the first step in joining the market is understanding what you can and can't actually supply, right? And your end of supply and demand, you are supply. What can you actually supply? Do I have 10 acres? Do I have 5 acres? Do I have 20 acres? Do I have 100 acres? Do I have the labor to be able to produce corn 300 pounds a week or bushels or however it was corn you do? You actually ask yourself the question of, can I actually supply consistently a good product without bugs? Can you do that? If you can't, you might want to go over to Darren or Marie or Kelvin and learn how to do it first before you do that. Before you get in the game, can you swim before you jump in the pool? That's the best way I can say it.
Any question?
We talked about it quite a bit today, and that's finding the buyer first, finding the market first, and plan your production. Those two things.
Come to the Alabama Supply Chain Coordination Symposium at the Black Belt Marketing and Innovation Center on January 30th, 2026.
That was a great one. I like what you did that. I would say, like I say, finding that market and then find 2 more markets. So, when you find that one market, hey, I'm selling fresh produce to you. What happens if you don't buy all of it? Now I got to look at a value added piece of it. What if that doesn't sell? Now I need to look at, is it waste? If it's waste, I can look at it as livestock feed or composting or charity, so it's having all of those avenues for you. So when I say it's more than one way to skin a cat, make sure you find it.
From a branding and marketing perspective, I would just say, know your why. Are you doing this for money? Are you doing this because you want to feed good people good food? Are you doing it because you just like the farm? Whatever your why is, that will inform how you go about advertising and marketing your products.
I want to say thank you to all of our panelists. I know there were a lot of questions, but hopefully it provided the audience with the audience with a good overview of what we're looking to do collectively over 2026 and beyond. And I thought that the conversation really tied together with where we're trying to go. Before we close, just any question that's burning, and then we're going to go into this last section. And I'm just going to bribe, because I'm a big briber. If you stay, I'm just giving out these sheets, and there are 40 grants, probably about $44 million worth of grants on the back of this sheet, ranging from 1,000 to into the millions. And it just to give us a taste and a sample of helping us see the art of the possibility as we think about our farms, growing, scaling, and working collectively. So with that, I don't know. Yeah. Oh, here you go, sir. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Now show some love.
To recharge, to retire, to recharge, and to get to my ancestors and figure out who I am at a senior age. And in that, I really understood that farming is a business. And so as we are on this journey collectively to farm, I think about what's holding us back? Because I'm an outsider coming into the region, so my perspective really comes from a corporate view of things. So I'm going to pass these out, and it really is sort of a summary of just some of the path we need to take and things we need to think about as we think of farming as a business. But what I really want to also share too is, and I use AI a lot. For almost everything, I'm incorporating intelligence. I really do have 40 grants here on the very back, and it has the dates when those, roughly every year when those come due, what the main objective of that grant is. And I actually did this because these are the grants that I am probably going to write in 2026 and 2027. And I invite as many of us to take advantage of the opportunities out here. And I will say this is not even a drop in the bucket at all the funds that are available to help us be successful as farmers. And with that.
Listen, you did an excellent job. Way to take a lot of information